Hello.
Hey, welcome back. Today we got uh, a kind of a specific topic.
What's in that coffee?
Evidently, yeah, I should have warmed up before we got started. The kind of a specific topic talking about what to do or how to find content ideas when you're feeling stuck.
Yes, indeed. So, as a business owner or someone who's wanting to start a business, of course, we all know that one of the most powerful ways to get what you have in front of the people who need what you have is to create valuable and effective content on whether that's on a blog post, a website, social media, YouTube videos, and coming up with the ideas for that content can be challenging.
Yeah. So, do you feel, and I know that I've related to this in the past, but when you have to sit down and come up with the ideas for creating content, do you end up feeling paralyzed or do you feel
Overwhelmed.
frozen, feeling overwhelmed, feeling stuck, uh, blank? Do you feel pressured? So those kind of feelings. And
Another
yeah,
option I know that I've had in the past as well is
mhm,
trying to come up with ideas and then thinking, well, somebody else has already said that. What do I have to add
yeah.
that someone
What
else
do
has?
I have? Nobody's really going to listen to me. Those kind of, yeah,
Right. And
feelings.
and what, I don't have anything new, or I don't know how to say it, and that kind of thing. Or what are people going to think,
Hmm.
if I talk about this particular topic? So today we want to give you 3 keys to coming up with ideas for topics, ideas for content that will reach the audience you are wanting to reach. So this is not just any old content. This is content that is going to actually have the impact and the effect that you want in order to bring those to,
Hmm.
in order to let your audience know what you have to help them.
So I think, I think by way of launching into this, it's maybe starting with recognizing those states that we're in as we're sitting down to create the content. What's happening to us
Well,
physiologically?
yeah. So the first thing I want to say is that as we try and come up with ideas, as we try and strategize, or we try to be creative, as we want to communicate effectively, all of those higher levels of thinking, we need the prefrontal cortex of our brain in order to be able to think that way. So that's the cognitive thinking part of the brain. So as we try to think, what ideas can I come up with, or what's my competition coming up with, and how can I come up with something different? All of that way of thinking
Hmm.
is with the prefrontal cortex. Now, the problem is that when we're feeling any negative emotion, so we're sitting down, we're thinking, I can't think of anything to say, or nobody wants to hear from me, or I don't know what to say, it's overwhelming. How do I even start? All of those negative thoughts, as they're creating the negative feelings, the stress chemicals in our system, including adrenaline and cortisol, are taking the part of our brain offline that we need in order to be able to think that way and come up with those ideas. Also, if you think about doing content, you're feeling, oh, I don't feel like doing it. You feel
I've
any
never, I've
any
never
kind
had
of
that.
any kind of resistance to doing it. I don't have
Hmm.
enough time to do it. Pressure, all of that. So, what you're essentially doing when you're sitting down to try and come up with ideas for content, while you are in a negative state, you are literally not able to access the part of your brain in order to come up with those ideas. So the first part, and the second part of this is I'm going to give you practical ideas for coming up with content, and then we've got a third part. So this first part is doing whatever it takes to get into a state of feeling good before you start trying to come up with content, because as you bring the stress chemicals down in your system and your brain starts producing feel good chemicals, that allows blood back to the part of your brain you need in order to think clearly and come up with ideas and be creative and think strategically and so on. So in the first instance, you need to bring down the stress chemicals, do whatever it takes. So whether that's playing with your pet or playing a game or going for a walk or doing some other physical exercise or thinking about things you enjoy and love.
Yeah. So what's going on here is that we are essentially in one of those stages or one of those phases of fight, flight, or freeze when we think about creating content and we're feeling those negative emotions. We're someplace on that continuum of fight, flight, or freeze. So we're actually creating that struggle, that fight, or that running away, or that shutting down inside of us. And in order to change that, we need to change the activity. We need to come up with some other kind of behavior that is creating a different neurochemical feeling in the body.
Exactly. So that's part one.
Mm-hmm.
Part two is before, rather than just, most people sit down and think, right, now I've got to come up with content, right? So it's that kind of sitting down and trying to do it. Whereas the thing to do is, without thinking about it, while you are doing other things, without thinking about the content itself, while you're doing other things, making a coffee, having a shower, going for a walk, whatever that is, allow yourself to think of just one person who needs what you have. So rather than thinking, what content am I going to come up with, or I've got this audience I need to reach, think of just one person that you could help. And it doesn't have to be a specific, it can be a specific person, but it doesn't have to be. It just needs to be someone out there that you can help. And so think of that one person. What is one thing that they need to know that that they don't know yet? So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is, how are they going to feel when they know that thing? So are they going to feel hopeful? Are they going to get an idea they never had before? Are they going to see something differently to the way they saw it before? Boiling it down to one person, one thing they need to know, and how are they going to feel when they know that thing? That's going to, number one, make it far simpler to come up with content. And number two, it's going to change your chemical state, which will change the way you're thinking. So that's that piece. Now, once you've got that, and remember, you're not sitting down to do this. You're not sitting in front of a computer or your phone to do this. You're doing other things and allowing your brain to wander, because that's what will also keep the stress chemicals down, and it'll allow your creativity to come to the front. So once you've done that, now imagine you're talking to that person. Don't worry about what you're going to write or what you're going to record or anything like that. Just imagine you've got that person in front of you, and how are you going, just not how. You've got that person in front of you, and explain this one thing to them in your mind. Imagine you're just explaining it to them. So the equivalent for us would be, what we gave you as the first part of this video, which is when you're feeling a negative emotion, the stress chemicals in your system cause blood to drain from the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is where we do our cognitive thinking. So when you're feeling any negative emotion, you literally can't think straight. So that would be the equivalent. So there'll be something for your topic that you can explain to someone who doesn't know it yet. And because you're having a conversation in your head, you're using a different part of your brain to when you have to sit down and write something or record something. So that's what makes the difference. Now, once you've done that, then you can make a note of bullet points of the things that you've explained to this person in your mind, and then get excited about how they're going to feel before you actually then sit down and write the content. So that'll get you into a completely different state, and you'll come up with ideas you would never have come up with before, because you're thinking of the end result for the person you're trying to reach.
Yeah, so I think is really critical. And I think the critical point here is recognizing that if we're experiencing those negative states, frozen, scared, I don't want to do this, confused, feeling procrastination, feeling angry, all of those kind of things are definitely going to have an impact on your ability to even come up with ideas in the first place.
Yeah. So now that's the first part, prefrontal cortex, you need that online. Second part was the practical way of doing it. And then the third part is not everyone. So one person may feel, I don't know what to say. Another person may feel overwhelmed. I've got too much to say and I don't know where to start. Another person may be worried about what are people going to think. Another person may be thinking, well, what have I got to say that, somebody else hasn't already said? So there's all different reactions and responses to the expectation you have of yourself to, or the thing you need to create content for your for whatever you're creating
your
for.
Audience. Yeah,
right. So what causes what is the difference between each of those people and the way you respond is the unconscious references that form your self-image and worldview. So each person is going to have a different and a unique self-image and worldview. This is unconscious. So, for example, one person thinks let's say one person, when they were a child, they had trouble with homework. So they either didn't understand it, or they were always getting into trouble for not doing homework, or they were living in a very stressful home. So when they tried to do homework, there was a lot of stress involved. That person may, depending on what other references they have, when they think of creating content, their brain may be referring to those experiences in childhood that now have formed part of their self-image, part of who they are, and then triggering the same stress chemicals that create stress, that create fear, that create confusion. I don't know what to do, but it's not about creating the content. It's about those childhood references, and they're creating the same feeling now. Now, because it is unconscious, so we're not aware that this is what's happening, we think it's about now. So the conscious mind goes, oh, it's because I don't know what to create, or because what are people going to think, and so on. So that part of the thing, that part of the situation is from unconscious references, and we actually have a free masterclass, if I can see what I'm doing here, that goes into details on that. So you can register for that, and you can access the free masterclass, which will go into details on how those references are created, and most importantly, how they can be changed.
Right. It's it's just fascinating to me. As we engaged in this, as I engaged in doing this process, going back and uncovering, what those references were in my past, in my childhood, that are running in the background. It's like we're not doing this consciously. So the mind, the subconscious mind, is referring back to what we experienced and what we felt in childhood in order to help us to know how to be reacting in the situation. The situation being, I've got to create content right now, and in the background, my reaction is being formed by what I experienced in childhood, and I'm not even aware of that. There's not even any control of that going on. But the empowering part of this is that we can actually go back, discover those references, make those changes, which has an automatic impact on how we're reacting in the moment to the same situation.
Absolutely spot on. So we hope to see you in that masterclass. And of course, as always, let us know if you have it. Oh, one more thing is that I gave you one practical tip, number 2 in this video, and for creating, for ideas, getting ideas for content, I have a lot more. So if you would like more of those practical tips, let us know in the comments of this video, and we'll do another video on those.
Yeah, and also feel free to ask any questions that you might have in the comments below. We're monitoring those kind of things. We'll be more than happy to answer those questions in the comments.
Very good. All right, we will see you next time. Bye-bye now.
Bye for now.